for for Blue Protocol, do you have any concerns of it being a free-to-play MMORPG?
No, it's not worth worrying about something you can't experience. There are games out there like Guild Wars 2 that I think really manage free-to-play very well. There are games out there like BDO that become very pay-to-win, but the community seems to be okay with it. As far as like there is a healthy community around BDO, and then there are games like Diablo Immortal where that is just a constant point of friction and can damage the reputation of the entire publisher. So like I think the word free to play just has a huge range, and so it's just not worth getting upset about something that's not released. The exception to that being when they start making it a point of contention. So when companies start collecting $50, $60, $100, $500 on behalf of players for a game that's not released, that starts to feel a little scammy pretty quick. It doesn't have to be, but it's definitely walking a tightrope. So if you need the money, you got to do it. But if you can avoid that, I think that's a healthier relationship with your community to say, let us show you why you should support us first, and then we can talk about the money. But when you see studios who have yet to release a product collecting hundreds of dollars from people, it feels like they're just setting them up. It's just a feeling. Happy to be wrong. It's just a feeling. So, battle passes, subscriptions, it all comes down to like, what did I actually get, right?
Yeah.
When we go to a restaurant, we see the prices on the menu and we order. If you've never been to that restaurant before, you don't know if it's going to be good. You don't know how much food's going to be on the plate. You don't know how fast it's going to come out. There's just a lot of trust in that. And so I don't really find it very healthy to be like upset before you walk into any new restaurant. Like, let's just say, hey, you're the one that picked it off of Yelp or whatever. You're the one that agreed to go there. You're trusting them. And if they burn you, don't go back and leave them a bad review. If you keep eating there, that's you. But like, I think that's a very fair, like, I'm willing to trust everybody kind of once.
Yeah.
And if somebody tells me, hey, there's a new restaurant in town and it's $500 to eat there, I'm just not going to go. Right? Like, that's my call. Right. And so I feel much less risky trying out a local burger place at $6 than I do somewhere that my wife and I have to dress nice and drop my 2005 car off at a valet. Like, I feel differently. So I would say that when we talk about these games that have yet to release a product, that's where I actually do start to get hesitant. But they haven't done that. So whatever they want to do, knock themselves out.
Yeah, I think free to play in this case, while I prefer the buy to play because I see, chat talking about like bots and cheaters, a buy to play has an initial cost that is the risk that if you want to cheat or if you want to bot, like all of a sudden you're like, I'm $20 in or whatever the cost is. That's something that I'm either willing to lose. And so we've seen that having some level of cost does remove that aspect of botting and all of that. However, we do know that the free-to-play model, like do the benefits outweigh the disadvantages? Does it make more sense to have more people playing this game? And I honestly have to kind of fall into the category of like, yeah, I still wish it was buy, but it's not. It is literally going to be free-to-play. So understanding the relationship, understanding what their monetization strategy is with the battle pass and how they've got because they have a gacha system for the mounts and for the costumes, not for power. But okay, like that's what as long as you understand the relationship. What will annoy me is in 3 weeks or 6 weeks after launch, all of a sudden it was like, I can't believe I spent 50 grand on this game and all I got was this. And it's like, you did that 50 grand for the content. Like that in and of itself, like while it's so attention grabbing, it's so highlight. That's why you see people do this. And that's why when anybody ever comes out and says like, all we got to do as gamers is just stop giving these companies money on the free to play games. And I don't know why I'm really feeling Texan right now, but like, I was like, man, I'm really hearing my draw at this moment. But you see that and it's like, there's no way people are going to go and spend an insane amount of money. They've done so on Genshin. They've done so on all these things. And I think essentially that's just going to lead to the hype. I do have a question for you because Genshin Impact is a natural comparison for this game. Do you think I don't see them as one of the same, but do you think that Blue Protocol is going to benefit off of something like Genshin and Tower of Fantasy, which is another anime kind of mobile kind of MMO, not really MMO kind of thing?
anywhere you have parallels, you can hope to convert, right? Like you have somebody who's already interested in giving up their time and their money for a type of game. And so if you can say, I'm that same type of game,
Yeah.
you can try to draw those people over because they're known consumers. At the same time, you don't want to tie yourself so much to that anybody that already knows they don't like Genshin won't like your game. So you've got this kind of like two-faced marketing ploy where you've got like two guys out on the street corner, and one is running by all the other identical sandwich shops and is telling people, don't go in there. We have new sandwiches. You have another guy that's running around with a sign looking for people who are like, well, I'm not in the mood for sandwiches. Well, this is not like other sandwiches. This is so like there's both of that's happening simultaneously. Final Fantasy is regularly putting up ads on World of Warcraft related websites to focus on how similar these games are. And World of Warcraft regularly, when they have an expansion, puts ads on Final Fantasy websites for the exact same reason. But then the moment you have somebody who's like, I'm so sick of Final Fantasy, or I'm so sick of World of Warcraft, people are like, well, actually, they're different games. So like, I do think there is a natural parallel where people who like the art style, or people who are okay with free to play, or people who prefer games that are made in a certain region because that has certain stereotypes associated with the type of content. Anywhere that any of that comes to their benefit, they're probably going to lean into it. Anywhere that somebody says, I don't like this type of art style, or I don't like free-to-play games, or I don't like more Eastern-based MMOs, that's where all of a sudden you start to see that pushback and say like, oh, well, we're not like the others. So it is literally a yes and no, because that's what marketing is going to be tasked with doing. It's going to be to draw in every single player that might like the game.
Yeah, I think Blue Protocol is going to be able to benefit from how similar and at the same time how different it is. As Aethemon is putting out, like it feels like it's more akin to Final Fantasy 14 than Genshin. But what it can draw in is it can draw in that real anime style visual effects from Genshin and Tower Fantasy. So immediately, players that have tried those games out will have eyes on Blue Protocol, and that's a natural thing because art style has that connection, but it is more akin to Final Fantasy 14 in terms of its zone design and its player experience and its MMO nature. In fact, like if you played Genshin or Tower Fantasy looking for an MMO and wishing that Final Fantasy 14 had action combat, like you are the perfect person to come and try out Blue Protocol. Like this feels like a game that was like, hey, here's the demographic we're trying to hit, and it is Blue Protocol, Genshin Impact, Tower Fantasy, Final Fantasy.
That's the dream scenario. Like that's the dream scenario. Somebody who wants some of what those games had to offer. They want some of what Final Fantasy 14 has to offer. They want some of what Genshin has to offer, and they say, I'm willing to consume your product as it is, but I wish there was something that did the things I like about you while also doing this other thing. Somebody who's like, man, I really prefer the Genshin art style, but I love Final Fantasy 14's community. Or somebody that plays Genshin and they're like, I wish I had a more substantial experience that felt more akin to something like a World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy 14, where it was this more ongoing time dump. And that's the perfect, that becomes your core, right?
Yeah.
That's your core audience. But you're probably also going to have people who are only playing because it has a couple attributes they like.
Right.